Hello, everybody. Welcome to DC Domingo. We are pretty freaking pumped for today's show. A lot of cool stuff went down in the week. Yes, that was the Wonder Woman theme. We are very excited. We're going to cover that last. We're going to start off, with throwing the garbage or recycling it into something a little bit more positive. We always start off with the haters. But we want to give a shout out to the Marvel guys because they're going through their, shitty reviews right now. Freaking Rotten Tomatoes decimated Iron Fist. I don't know what the hell's up with that. They got like 0%. Now, this meme over here was, made because we share your pain, obviously. But like I said, Rotten Tomatoes just sucks, don't let them discourage you from watching your stuff. The curious thing that I want to talk about is, it's almost like RT, Rotten Tomatoes, kind of operates like Russia Today, RT. It's very, very freaking weird. And, we're starting to get a glimpse of what goes on behind the scenes. If you go right now, it used to be that it only had 9 reviews, and it gave it a 0%. It sucks. But all of a sudden, over the weekend, it skyrocketed to 14%, and you kind of go, what the hell happened? Well, the number of reviews jumped from 9 to 12. So 2 people decided to give it a fresh, review, and one person was like, no, this sucks. So, if you kind of check it out who these people were, you kind of stumble with like, oh, hey, one's from Collider. You kind of go, okay, been there, done that. They're usually like, pro Marvel and crap. So the other one, you kind of go, who the hell is that? And then you're like, oh, man, it's Empire magazine. So you kind of go and check out the review, right? And you get 3 stars out of 5. That'd be cool. Except you kind of read, I've highlighted all the important stuff over here. It's like, this show was delayed, which is good. But if you look at the rating, it's not good. Then it goes like, oh, it's good that they're not meshing this with the movie universe. And then I'm like, there's no explanation why this isn't. Even though like, towards the bottom of this second or third paragraph, he gets compared, the lead protagonist gets compared to Star-Lord himself. It's like, well, it's kind of the same character, right? And then in this box over here, taken out of context, it feels kind of bland. So, is it or is it not bland? Because so far you're not really giving me much over here, buddy. And, I like Empire magazine. Usually they're pretty legit, but then you start reading about this, Iron Fist is a fresh presence, so Dark and Greedy can suck it. Is that it? Less compelling. There's no sense of connection to his subject. It is not until the 6th episode that this show becomes, okay. So even this really, really 3 out of 5 star review goes like only 1 episode is good. So it's like, I don't know how to justify the 3 out of 5 stars. And then, they talk about like, oh, this guy, most of the cast, they could do better, and I write keyword diversity, definitely should have casted an Asian dude as the lead. You would have rocked it. Iron Fist works some fantastical flavor, but it needs more proper kung fu flair than showrunner Buck allows. So, yeah. And then they start saying that the Marvel shows are slow and they stretch out all their plot lines. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like the less cool seasons of Smallville where like the first episode was awesome. Then the mid-season finale was great. The second part of the season opener was great, and then the closer was great. So out of 24 episodes, you got 4 really great ones, and then you kind of shoot dice for the rest of the seasons. Over here, it seems like it's the same thing, but it seems even this guy's giving a pass to Iron Fist. So, I don't know. It just kind of seems like, somebody over there in Rotten Tomatoes panicked. It's like, oh man, we got a 0. Let's call out people. And, maybe when there's more reviews, people will be like, oh yeah, let's give it a better review. But so far, we kind of see how Rotten Tomato operates. They're trying to rescue this franchise, which, it's kind of unfortunate. All right, the other doofus, it's John Campea from Collider again. This is what he tweeted. He's being a butt. I think after the fiasco, he should have just shut the fuck up. But no, he keeps on going. So, Twitter has alternative accounts for, the state parks that have been censored. There's a really cool one that I follow called Presidential Trump, where they translate every crazy thing Trump says into something that sounds coherent. So over here, we did a nice little take of what a actual journalist from Actual Press would do. And it reads this. The third trailer for the DC Wonder Woman will be unveiled at Kids' Choice Awards on 3/11. Simple, right? That's what journalism is supposed to be. Straight to the point news. That's it. No flair. Over here, alternative John Campea wrote something like, hey, did you bitch about Katie Marble's Guardians of the Galaxy showing trailer number 2 at Jimmy Kimmel beyond past bedtime and in some raunchy adult late night crass TV show? No, of course not. But to answer John Campea and his BS argument, here's this. This is all these awesome kids dressed up as Steve Trevor, Wonder Woman at the Kids' Choice Award. So if you're wondering why the fuck DC is showing it right over there, that's your answer. They're appealing to the next generation. Speaking of appealing, another blunder. Can you believe it's 2010? We're talking about the first female villain, Kate Blanchett, which shows really poor English grammar writing on behalf of Collider. It should have said the first knighted villain who happens to be female, but no, they fucked this up again, and the internet kind of backfired. Some people went back to the witch, the wicked witch of the West, and was like, witch, please. Freaking Collider. But that's not all. I think that sometimes people just say dumb shit and they don't even realize how horrible it is. This headline from comicbook.com, once again, Brie Larson says Captain Marvel will truly show what a female superhero looks like. Sounds a bit racist, considering that they replaced the Muslim one, who is really, really favored by everybody over there at Marvel as Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, for, Carol, the plain bread. So that Brie Larson could play her since she just won an Oscar. Again, they're very much for diversity, but not really. So that's it. That's more for the horrible, press that we've had this week. Not much, really. But if you go to most of the hater websites, they've been triggered again because the Wonder Woman, trailer is pretty damn awesome. Now, we're going to switch back to, our awesome positive news. Alright, so this week I actually got to buy some comics. You can see them over here. I bought 2 of the giant collections of Phantom Stranger. I am soon to go into spring break, so I will have those read for you. Give you some of my awesome take on it. The ones I'm more excited about, obviously Rebirth of the Justice League of America. The old Justice League, I was still collecting it. Got to catch up on that. You can see a lot of them. And then one big announcement is that I am going to review Dark Knight 3 in its entirety. It's always divisive just to read one issue, because you don't really get a whole sense of what the hell the artists are trying to say. Both the writer and the visual artists. So I'm gonna read those, probably reread them, and then I'm gonna check out what the intellectuals say online, because I believe this might be the most misunderstood piece of fiction in recent comic book history. So we are going to do that next week, or within the week or so. A cool thing happened is that the gentleman playing Deathstroke, Joe Manganielo, when he was asked about his diet and his preparation for his role as Deathstroke in the new Batman movie, he kind of took some shots at the haters, mostly Collider. We know those are a bunch of haters. And he called them drama queens, basically, because they're always complaining about things they're not getting. So if they get an announcement, they get triggered and they say, well, when is the start date? If they get a start date, it's like, where is the script? If they get a leaked script, it's like, they might do, why aren't they doing this instead? So they're drama queens. They're clickbait, we would call them attention whores, but that's a disservice to the the actual sex industry people. Moving on. We have not much. We have a lot of cool shows to cover. We are going to skip The Flash and Legends of Tomorrow, because I really want to get into this really two-parter episode of Supergirl. And coincidentally, I happened to watch this during International Women's Day. It just happened like that. I needed to catch up with these two because it was a two-parter episode. So it just worked out that way. I will go ahead and do that, and then I have like a little special political message that this show kind of triggered. The coolest thing is that Dean Cain, who's famous for playing Clark Kent as Superman in the early 90s TV show The Adventures of Lois and Clark, returned as the parent of Kara Danvers and her sister. The cool thing is that Mon-El kind of was sensing that he wasn't quite right, and there were some ulterior motives, which turned out to be true. He hacked into the DEO and stole some stuff, which kind of caused like a little bit of a rift between Kara and Mon-El. There was some distrust over there, and I think Mon-El was really quick to jump the trigger on it, but it kind of proved right. Now, the other weird thing is that the dad said, "Hey, Mon-El, I know what you are." So he might not be what he's claiming up to be. It was kind of emotional seeing Kara's sister confront her dad out in the forest. There was a great chemistry, great tension in there. Compared to what Toyman Jr. was going through on his date in the first episode, it was kind of cute and tender. He's open and not xenophobe, so he found this really cool alien lady that he's not just dating because there just happens to be a cool person that talks to him, but more like they're connecting on all the nerdy stuff they enjoy together. I think that both of them were quite lonely, and they both took it out on their jobs. She was a little bit more into the bar scene and just being more physically, just kicking ass, while he was just more into the tech side of it. So yeah, it was a pretty tender, first part of it. The second part of it started with the abductions of these registered aliens. Apparently registering was something volunteer, and it was mutual benefit for everybody. And Cadmus Project kind of violated that and started abducting people. They happened to abduct Toman Jr.'s girlfriend, and it escalated pretty damn quickly. Over here, we have the nice scene at the warehouse with the trigger. It's like, hey, if, it's time to show what you taught your daughters, So the dad figure is being challenged here. It's like, well, you preach all this cool stuff, now you're going to allow us to do what you taught us to do. And it helps to, bring some kind of closure to the two-parter episodes, because over here I have this really cool shot of Supergirl struggling because her sister's in trouble. Once the giant spaceship is hits orbit, it's going to go into hyperspeed, and all the captured people are going to be never seen again. So, yeah, Supergirl's really struggling on this one. She's seeing her dad figure betray the family. She's about to lose her sister with a bunch of other aliens. It might trigger like a alien-human war. Everything's at stake in this shot. And I'm not showing you a lot of spoilers, like action shots or really, really dramatic stuff, because quite frankly, I want you to watch these shows, Sometimes, stuff happens where you watch these shows for just like the cool effects and stuff, and then you tend to forget about all the really, really cool stuff that goes unsaid, especially between like the dynamics of certain characters with each other. And it really works in this episode. Now, usually I don't like Snapper Carr. He kind of seems like a disgruntled dude who could use more whiskey or less whiskey, depending on the day. But damn, he floored me with this awesome quote. He started saying, what was it? You weren't careful, you were lucky. One wrong statistic about the stock market, and suddenly we are in the Great Depression. One misattributed quote from a candidate, and you put a fascist in the White House. That, my friends, is why journalism is really important. And it came from a very unlikable person, and in this very instant, he made me go, wow. His standards mean something. He's very unlikable because he's seen that what shitty journalism does to everybody. And I can only tell you that in today's political structures, and not only just in this country but everywhere else, it couldn't be more true. We're starting to see that with our DC comics. It doesn't really matter if the people see our movies, if they are reporting the truth. It's mostly how they feel about DC Comics. So we're not seeing the news. We're seeing how people feel about the news. And that is wrong. The truth should be told no matter what the hell, And bravo to, CW for doing this. Because they really knocked it out of the ballpark with this. The other freaking cool thing that I was not even expecting, at one of the comic book conventions, I joked with Guillermo del Toro. I got to ask him a question. I was very lucky. We were in Hall H. I don't know how many people Hall H holds, but it's a lot. I think almost like 2,000 people. But I introduced myself really cutely. I was like, hey, my name's Sergio, this is my green card. Some people laughed, and then the Guillermo del Toro replies like, I know. It's like, we got to have it at the ready now. You never know. And everybody laughed, And it was like, it was when the Arizona law first started to kick in, where like the cops could ask you for the papers, and if you didn't have them, they'd send you to an ICE facility. Well, recently there was a young Latina lady her and her dad were stopped by the cops, and she filmed it, and her dad was taken into custody because, he didn't have his papers on him. Just a random, traffic stop that led to a deportation of her dad. And it caught national attention because it's like, this is like a violation of rights. And some people say, well, people who come here illegally don't have any rights, but constitutional lawyers would disagree. Also, the Geneva Convention would disagree. But those laws don't really apply when, you're blinded by hate. So what I saw in Supergirl was the exact same scene playing. Over here we have this road, which is pretty familiar if you've seen Smallville. I believe that the CW Studios has many Vancouver connections, and I am not kidding you. This road has been on Smallville, so it was already familiar to me. I was like, oh, I love this road. So it starts off as a regular traffic stop. I swear this is a road from Smallville. And then the cop seems super friendly with a nice smile on his face, and he's like, hey, you got a broken taillight. I just happen to have some tape. I'll help you. And the scene kind of turns scary because they start putting the handcuffs on him, on the dad, once he gets off the car. In some weird alien language, he goes, run, get out of the car, run. And, both the mom and the daughter run for their lives, and they're captured. Even though these aliens are registered, kind of like me being a legal alien, I'm I'm registered also. So this, this kind of, caught me off guard in a very emotional way. Kind of like, oh man, democracy is very, very brittle. I gave this a nice shout out to Phil Jimenez. He's a comic book artist. He did Wonder Woman for a little bit. I sent him this. Hopefully he'll, he said he hadn't watched it, so maybe he'll watch it. I just, again, I was very, very floored by the CW. I was like, oh man, whew, I could write college paper on these guys. Anyway, so we're 22 minutes in, and let's go ahead and discuss Wonder Woman because, dude, freaking trailer, right? It's amazing. Earlier in the week, this amazing poster was released with a nice pose, with the sword kind of like hitting the ocean reflection, and it's like a nice beach. And what's really interesting about the poster is that she lives on an island, and there's water slowly creeping in to this island. So it's kind of like the outside world coming in, The reds definitely signify the first Great War, World War I. And the blues definitely reflect her Themyscira. So I picked some really cool shots from the trailer. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of people on YouTube who are going to analyze the movie or the trailer movie shot by shot by shot. And they're going to, focus on all the cool stuff. I'm focusing mainly on things that other people haven't picked up. So for instance, Themyscira looks a little bit different than what I envisioned. It looks very much timeless. If you look at some parts of Italy, Turkey, or Germany, towns that have existed for like close to 1,000 years, look a little bit like this, worn out. They're made of real sturdy bricks. It's very lush, very peaceful, sustainable environment. It's there. So yeah, I picked up on this immediately. There is a motif of a nice little bridge in the distance, a nice giant tower. I'm guessing that's where the jail is, or maybe that's where the library. It'll give us some nice clues. Why they put so much emphasis on that one structure that looks like a power plant, for our modern eyes. It was nice to see Diana as a as a little girl because we got to see Superman as a little boy, and we got to see Batman as a little boy too. So that was really nice. This shot over here, it's iconic to all the comic book people. You know, Steve Trevor's plane goes down. This is a WW1 airplane, and I don't know if you can see the rocks, you know, towards the horizon. That might be the shield that's keeping Themyscira hidden from the outside world. That might be like a signal. You can kind of see that there's a different variation in the way the water hits around that area, almost like a reservoir. Really well done. The other shot that I liked a lot was this one. This is a gas mask being devoured by some kind of gas. Now, if you know your history, you would know that the biggest thing that came out of World War I was mustard gas. Chemical warfare was really giant. It was really big in that war, and it really cemented some of the horrors of the last century. And who do we see perpetrating this thing is, one of the villains. And I don't know who this is, but it is rumored that it's a nickname Dr. Gas, which is one of the first villains of Wonder Woman. She has part of her face disfigured, and she wears like a porcelain mouth covering around the jaw and ear. Very, very interesting character. So this shot over here is an iconic shot where she deflects, like a mortar or grenade or something. I liked it because it reminds me of that awesome video game, Battlefield 1, which if you haven't played it, you know what she's up against. You know, this first war was very, very vicious. I think it's brilliant that they chose that particular war because they use horses in that war. And, the Amazonians really were great at horses and, bows. So it kind of plays to their strength. Whether or not they're going to join in battle, I haven't seen anything. I think the only person that we've seen join men's world is Wonder Woman. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. The other villain that we got to see is this guy. And many people thought that he was Ares, god of war. There's rumors that he may not be, but he's a very, very interesting actor. Great choice, top notch. And then the last part of the trailer ends with this shot, which kind of reminds me of Superman. There's a very iconic pose with the arms open, and there seems to be some power-up going on. It kind of plays on to the bracelet motif. The bracelets are kind of glowing and powering up, but so it's the entire outfit. So which kind of lets us to believe of if she gets like some other extra power just for the movie, or if there's more behind it. So those are the things that I chose to talk about. And yes, we're very, very excited about the Wonder Woman movie. Well, that's all for this episode. So yeah, next episode, man, we're going to have probably back-to-back episodes of The Flash covered and Legends of Tomorrow, but also we're going to do a really cool video about Dark Knight 3 by Frank Miller and Brian Azzarello with others. Anyways, this is DC Domingo. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and go check out the Wonder Woman trailer. Alright, later on.